Let's go, guys. Let's do it. I'm going to do my intro again, sorry. Welcome to Immersive Reactions, and today we're doing more lore, and thank you for everyone who has suggested these videos. I'm loving them overall. We're probably going to dabble in some other YouTube content creators that make stuff on Game of Thrones soon, but I'm addicted to If's style and his perspective on a lot of these, like, just little... He takes a lot of little things and just elaborates on them in a very amazing way. I actually reached out to Alt Shift to see if I could do a collaboration with him, just like a 30-minute conversation about some things. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, but I'll let you know if that changes. And yeah, he seems like he's super interesting to have a conversation with. If I can get that done for you guys, I will. But yeah, I'm wondering also if he's a writer himself, or maybe someone writes these videos for him. He's not actually writing them. I don't know. But yeah, we're going to get into this video now. Subscribe, comment. If we get 50 likes on this, you know the deal here. I'll continue to do lore videos. And I thank you all for being here and doing all that you have done up until this point to get us to this place. And here we go.
In the Game of Thrones books, there are lots of characters that don't appear in the TV show, like the rogue maester Marwyn and the wildling princess Val. One of the weirdest of these book characters is Patchface. Patchface is a jester serving Stannis Baratheon at Dragonstone. He hangs out with Stannis' daughter Shireen and sings strange songs about shadows and the sea. He seems to be a sort of a prophet of the drowned god, but he's also connected to the White Walkers, the Lovecraftian Deep Ones, and Grayscale. So, about 20 years ago, in the castle of Storm's End, there lived Steffon Baratheon, his wife Cassana, and their young sons Robert, Stannis, and Renly. The king, Aerys Targaryen, sent Steffon across the Narrow Sea to find a wife for Prince Rhaegar. Steffon didn't find a likely bride, but he did find a remarkable young slave boy, his face tattooed with red and green motley. The boy was smart and nimble, could juggle and joke and sing in 4 different languages, so Steffon decided to bring the boy home for his family. But on the way back, Steffon's ship was smashed in a storm. Steffon, Cassana, and 100 men were drowned. Corpses washed up at Storm's End for days afterward, and on the 3rd day, Patchface washed up, naked, sandy, and cold. He seemed dead, but then woke up alive, though he was broken in body and mind. Patchface was no longer bright and clever. He now seemed mad, talking nonsense, twitching and trembling. Some wanted to put Patchface out of his misery. Maester Cresson spared his life, but doubts if Patchface is even glad to be alive. By Book 2, Patchface lives on Dragonstone with Shireen. She's a sad, lonely girl, and she forms a sweet friendship with Patchface, who she calls Patches. They keep each other company on bleak grey Dragon, but there is a creepiness and a darkness to Patchface. Patchface doesn't talk normally. He just has these weird songs and rhymes about the world under the sea, about fish and mermaids and shadows. He speaks about under the sea as like an opposite world to the world on land, like here we eat fish, but under the sea the fish eat us. He falls down to the ground, then says under the sea you fall up, which might refer to how corpses float. The sea seems connected to death in his songs. Some of Patch's songs don't mean much in particular, but others predict future events. In Book 3, he sings Fool's Blood on the Maiden's Thigh, but chains for the guests and chains for the bright eye. This describes the Red Wedding. The Fool's Blood is Aegon Frey's, who doesn't appear in the show. The King's Blood is Robb Stark's. The blood on the Maiden's Thigh is from Rosalind Frey losing her virginity, and the chains for the guests and the bridegroom refer to Edmure and other imprisoned survivors. This is an accurate prediction of the future by Patchface, and there are others. Like Patchface says under the sea, the merwives wear nemones in their hair and weave gowns of silver seaweed. At Joffrey's wedding, Sansa wears a silver gown in the books, and in her hair is hidden the poison that Olenna uses to kill Joffrey. So maybe this is Patch's vision of Joffrey's death. In a Davos chapter, Patches sings, under the sea, smoke rises in bubbles, and flames burn green and blue and black. This might be a warning for Davos about the Battle of the Blackwater, where green wildfire burns amidst black smoke and blue sea. Another song that Patchface often sings goes, the shadows come to dance, the shadows come to stay. This might refer to the shadow monsters Melisandre uses to kill people, but it might also refer to the White Walkers, who are described as shadows in the books. Patchface also refers to the Walkers' army of the dead. In the dark, the dead are dancing, he sings. How does Patchface know these things about darkness and death and the sea and the future? He seems to be connected to the power of the drowned god. It's a mystery how Patchface survived a shipwreck that killed everyone else on board. We're told no one ever explained those 2 days the fool had been lost in the sea, and when Patchface washed up, his flesh was cold. He seemed dead until he coughed water and sat up. This kind of revival after drowning is similar to the drowning ritual of the Ironborn. Believers of the drowned god are deliberately drowned then revived as a show of faith. Patchface lives on the opposite side of Westeros to the Ironborn, but still his songs closely connect with their religion. Ironborn believe that when they die, they'll go to the drowned god's watery halls to feast with mermaids for all eternity, like a bikini-bottom version of Valhalla. And in Patchface's songs, he describes feasting with mermen under the sea. He even mentions mermaids blowing seashells like trumpets, and Asher Greyjoy says the same thing, that merlings blow seashells in the drowned god's watery halls. So Patchface seems to know an awful lot about the underwater afterlife of the drowned god. He's constantly talking about the world under the sea, and his revival after drowning is similar to the Ironborn ritual. So there seems to be some connection between Patchface and the drowned god. The popular theory is
his humor is so good because he gives it dry. It's as dry could be.
the Patchface died in this shipwreck. He drowned and sank into the watery halls, then was resurrected by the drowned god to be his prophet. All the cool hip gods have undead human champions. Beric Dondarrion is resurrected by the magic of the fire god R'hllor. Bloodraven and Coldhand serve the old gods. White Walkers raise whites apparently to serve their god, the Great Other. So we got ice zombies, fire zombie, old gods, nature zombies. Maybe Patchface is a water zombie raised to serve the drowned god. The book character Aeron Greyjoy, or Damphair, believes himself to be the prophet of the drowned god. He claims to have died and seen the watery halls, then been resurrected. But Damphair's never made a prophecy or done anything particularly magical. His beliefs seem to be just a coping mechanism to feel powerful after childhood abuse. But Patchface was drowned and reborn for real, and he shows that being an avatar of a god is way more ugly and dark than Damphair realizes. Look at Bloodraven, Coldhands, and Beric. These are damaged men. To become something divine, they have to lose part of their humanity. Beric barely remembers his old life, and Bloodraven is more tree than man. Patchface is the same. The sea has taken half his wits and all his memory. He's gained power as a prophet of the drowned god, but he's lost who he was before. Patchface being the undead champion of the drowned god totally fits the themes of gods and magic in Game of Thrones. And it also fits the logic of sacrifice. We're told a bunch of times that only death can pay for life, like when Dany's unborn child is sacrificed to raise Drogo. The men drowned along with Patchface, and the Ironborn see drowning people as a sacrifice to the drowned god. These deaths might have worked as a sacrifice to pay for Patchface's resurrection. It all adds up. It's likely that Patchface was resurrected to serve as a prophet of the drowned god. Through this magic, that Patchface has insight into the ocean, darkness, and death. But is Patchface warning against the darkness, or is he a Alessandra says that Patchface is dangerous. She sees him in visions with skulls about him and bloody red lips. The Red Priest Maquoro says the drowned god is a demon, a thrall of the god of the White Walkers. Could this mean that Patchface is on the side of the dead? In Book 5, Jon Snow plans the...
Yeah, and I thought that a little bit earlier in this video too, about how they were saying that the drowned god and the White Walkers are like almost related in a way, which I never thought of, but makes sense just because ice, water is just not frozen ice. But I saw the White Walkers as cold, not ice, but again, ice, a song of ice and fire. So, which changes how I think about the Euron video, because I was talking about how the different apocalyptic events coming forward, like Euron's apocalypse versus the White Walker apocalypse, but it could be that Euron and the White Walkers could be working together to destroy Westeros, and that Euron will be like the southern attack versus the northern attack, which that would be amazing as like a story point, not just like the simpleness of the White Walkers coming from the north, but Euron coming from the south, young Griff with the Golden Company, the Lannisters in King's Landing, and Jon Snow and the rest of them. Like that's the ending that we probably wanted from the show, but obviously I don't know how much George R. R. Martin actually wanted to divulge to the writers to give them that. But then again, it's his thing, so like, wouldn't you want to set them up for success? Or was it that they had shaved off so much by the end that it just didn't mean anything? Like, you couldn't go and do the real ending because they had cut so much away already. They just went with the White Walkers versus Daenerys, when it was really supposed to be the White Walkers and Euron versus young Griff, Daenerys, and the Lannisters, with Jon Snow in the mix, in the like apocalyptic final conflict that ends a lot of people, and then the Iron Throne is given up to Bran at the end for some fucking reason.
Mission to Hardhome, where thousands of wildlings are attacked by White Walkers and their zombies. Someone asks who will lead the mission, and Patchface says, "I will lead it. We will march into the sea and out again." If the sea represents death in Patchface's songs, marching into the sea could mean dying, like the people killed at Hardhome. but Patchface says he'll then march back out of the sea, which could mean rising again from death, just like the zombies raised at heart. Patchface also says mermaids will blow seashells to announce our coming, just like the Night's Watch blows horns to announce the coming of White Walker attacks. So these lines do seem to refer to the massacre at Hardhome, which hasn't actually happened in the books yet. We've only just heard about dead things in the woods and dead things in the water. So we don't know if Patchface will play a role here. But whatever happens at Hardhome, it's telling that Patchface uses these words we and our. It sounds like Patchface is with the dead, just as Mel and Maquaro warn.
Wow.
And there is another kind of evil connected to Patchface, the Deep Ones. Author George Martin is a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, who wrote stories about the cosmic horror of alien gods. There are lots of references to Lovecraft in Game of Thrones, like these ancient ruined cities in the east, Kadath, Carcosa, Leng. One Lovecraft story, called The Shadow over Innsmouth, is about the Deep Ones, fishy creatures that breed with humans. And there are hints that these creatures exist in Game of Thrones. We hear about squishers, half-fish creatures who breed with humans. And we see families in Westeros with webbed fingers and bulging eyes, just like the half-fish hybrids in the Lovecraft story. It's said that the Deep Ones built structures in Westeros, including the Seastone Chair of the Ironborn. It's said that the Drowned God is the father of the Deep Ones. And this idea of fish creatures breeding with humans is connected to Patchface. After Patch is drowned, fisherfolk said that a mermaid had taught Patchface to breathe water in return for his seed. And Patchface says, under the sea, men marry fishes. They do. Could Patchface be involved with the Deep One's plans to breed with humans? This could cast a shadow over Patch's relationship with Shireen. In Book 5, he takes her by the hand and sings, "Come with me beneath the sea, away." And there is another dark possibility for Patchface and Shireen. When Shireen was a baby, she caught grayscale, an infectious disease that turns the skin grey and hard. It eventually covers the body and makes the victim lose their mind, become a zombie-like stone man, and eventually die. Children can survive the infection, and Shireen was one of the lucky ones, left just with its mark on her face. But in Book 5, the wildling Val says that Shireen is not clean, that her grayscale is just dormant and will wake again. Could Shireen infect others with deadly grayscale? In the show, Shireen is dead, burned alive by Melisandre, and nothing happens with her grayscale. But in the books, Shireen's still alive, and her death might be different. It could involve grayscale and Patchface, because grayscale is associated with damp, cold climates, and it's said that grayscale was a curse inflicted by a Rhoynar prince called Garin as a sort of a water magic. Some say that Garin has risen from his watery grave to become the Shrouded Lord, a figure who spreads grayscale with a grey kiss. Grayscale's connected with water magic and is spread by a character who rose from a watery grave. Patchface is connected to water magic and rose from a watery grave, and remember, Mel says that she sees him with skulls about him. Maybe if Shireen's grayscale wakes, Patchface will inadvertently help spread it. Maybe when Mel tries to burn Patchface's only friend, he'll get mad and start biting people, thus the bloody lips, causing the grayscale to spread into a plague. This could fulfill Mel's prophecy of waking a stone dragon. The stone dragon could be grayscale, and this ties back to Shireen because she has dreams of being eaten by stone dragons. It's all pretty vague, but it could fit. This lonely little girl and a sad full of dragonstone may not only horrifically die, but they may unleash a grey plague on Westeros. There are three main ideas on the fate of Patchface, and all of them are awful. Maybe he'll march with the army of the dead. Maybe he'll take Shireen to the Deep Ones for breeding. Maybe Patchface will wake a grey plague. It's all, and that's what magic's like in Game of Thrones. This is no swish and flick shit. The gods only give at great terrible cost, and these eldritch forces are rising. Old powers waken, shadows stir, an age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. This is what the winds of winter will bring. Thanks for watching. Comment below what you think will happen with Patchface and what videos you want to see next from Mulch.
It's really good addition. These just harbingers of doom. And it reminded me, I was going to say this before, but it reminded me of Old Nan from the show and the way she described the old one, the White Walkers and the coming of the White Walkers in her stories to Brynn. Whereas this character is just saying it out of his mind being shattered, but could be a deeper meaning of him being resurrected by the drowned god or whatever thing that is in alliance to both the drowned god and the White Walkers. That was really good. Thank you for the suggestion. Thank you, Jeremiah, Shaquille Rollet, and Mark for being our top members of the month. Thanks for watching. Check out our breakdown video for more insights. And do not forget to like and subscribe for more reactions. For full uncut content, join us on Patreon. We hope to see you in the next one.